Hey everybody, and welcome to MCP Sound Check. I'm Scott.
And it's Joe.
And today we're rounding out our look at the discography of Guns N' Roses with the Spaghetti Incident and Chinese Democracy, respectively. Starting off with Spaghetti Incident, of course. So this is a cover record that they had done. So no originals on here. A lot of punk bands covered on this one. There's a couple non-punk bands. Nazareth. I forget who did the original version of the opening track, but aside from them and T-Rex and of all people Charles Manson,
yeah,
it's all pretty much punk covers. You got Fear was covered, The Damned, UK Subs, Misfits was covered, Johnny Thunders was covered on there as well.
I was pleasantly surprised by that.
Yeah, me too. And it was a good cover, too. So this album came out about
1993, Scott.
93, yeah. Definitely a tumultuous period, to say the least. You know, they were coming off Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. I guess they just wanted to put something out while they were working on this new album that would eventually become Chinese Democracy. And so they worked on...
Not even, because they took so long to make Chinese Democracy, it still doesn't bleed over.
I think that might have a little bit to do with just everything that transpired behind the scenes. You know what I mean? Like I choose to believe if everything went according to plan, Chinese Democracy would have been a whole another record than what we eventually got. But with Spaghetti Incident, some of the covers, I gotta say, range from good to nothing's really bad on this record. Nothing really jumps out at me. You could definitely... I'll say, this definitely feels like it was more of a Duff McKagan passion project, if anything. Especially because Joe pointed this out to me before we recorded. Not only are Guns N' Roses, the band, listed as producers, but Duff himself was listed as a producer. Checking my notes here. Yes, that is true.
Yeah, Duff, Mike Klink, Jim Mitchell, Guns N' Roses. How many chefs do they have in this kitchen?
Yes. In fact, one chef's pulling double duty in the way of Duff McKagan. and not only that, but I think this is like the most non-Axl sung songs on an album. I think I counted it like 3 or 4, not to mention a couple, I think 1 or 2 of them he shares lead vocals with Slash. So this is more of a Guns N' Roses album in the sense of you're hearing more people on it, vocally. Than you have on the other records. This is also one of their shorter records, clocking in at a little over 40 minutes. So this is definitely one that you could easily just get into.
Or not.
Yeah. You're not missing anything if you don't listen to it.
It's a little better than I remember. But there are songs that kind of stand out for not being the most listenable.
They stand out for not standing out.
Yeah. I think you could say that about both records, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, and I can honestly say for both of these records, because I've never listened to them until I listened to it for this, and so I had nothing to go off of, and wow, I was very whelmed.
Yeah, it's a big drop off after Appetite, Lies, and the Use Your Illusions.
Yeah. I definitely think, though, the reason I feel that way is, like, if another band put out these records, I'd probably look at it view it a little higher, but when you look at where you've been, But, so for Spaghetti Incident, Joe, what would you say was your favorite song?
Alright, I gotta get my notes out now, too. Sorry.
You could tell how memorable this record was.
Yeah. Okay. I like, Ain't It Fun? That's one of my favorites. I think it's also a single, so you hear it on the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe you are correct.
Yeah, and the other one was Since I Don't Have You was another really good song.
Since I Don't Have You was as I was listening to the album as I was listening to that song, I should say, because my favorite song is actually the next song. I was so sure that would be it because it's very much up my alley. But I think their cover of New Rose was really good. I really do like The Damned, and I thought their cover
Yeah.
of all the covers of the punk bands that they did, I think this one really did the original band justice. Rather than just sounding like a cover, it feels like this one more than any other song they really tried on.
I don't know. I think "Ain't It Fun" is my favorite.
I mean,
of
between
the whole album.
I mean, you can't go wrong with it. I'm just in my opinion. What about the worst song? What was your least favorite song off this record?
Sorry, Duff, but all of my worst songs, I think I kept going and I kept writing which ones just struck me wrong, and they happened to be Duff McKagan songs.
But if you had to pick one as the be all end all,
oh boy, I'm gonna go Raw Power.
Raw Power, okay.
Yeah, I did not dig that cover of it.
I thought Raw Power was actually one of the better Duff songs. If I had to pick a Duff song,
I didn't like any of the Duff songs.
If I had to pick the Duff song that I didn't like, it was Attitude. I thought it was a really bad cover. Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say bad. I'll say it was a very uninspired cover. I feel like Duff just didn't have the I think Axl would have done a better job with the vocals. Not to say he's a bad singer, but Axl has the aggression that Duff didn't have.
And I have a theory that they sound better live.
That's not true. I've heard a live version of Attitude. It's not good.
Oh, it's not. Oh boy.
It sounds exactly like you get on the record. But that's not the worst song in my opinion. The worst song on this record is Down on the Farm. I hate it. I hate it. I hate Axl's lame ass British accent. I hate it. It's awful. It's stupid. It's dumb, and it's just not good. It's just even if, let me put it this way. Let's say I never heard Guns N' Roses before. Didn't know he was American, and I heard that song and thought he was British, I'd still say it was awful because his British accent is ungodly. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me. That was a rough listen. I almost skipped.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. I almost skipped.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that on this record, but it's all kind of there's nothing that really stands out to me. It was Ain't It Fun, but that's here, and then for me, Raw Power was here.
Yeah.
And everything else is, it's just not that great.
Yeah. I think as an honorable mention, since I Don't Have You, which you mentioned was your top song on the album, I really liked it. I liked the rock and roll doo-woppy feel. Yeah. I think more bands should utilize.
That was really cool.
I think more bands should utilize a sound like that, if only for one song. Maybe not a whole album, which they didn't, thankfully. But
oh god,
I think more bands should do that. I also thought the cover of Hair of the Dog was really good.
We agree.
Yeah.
That was my sleeper right there. I thought it was awesome. And I love the song. Sorry. I love the original. I love the original band. And I thought that version was great.
Yeah. The only other...
in fact, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm really sorry. But in fact, I almost put it as my best... But it's so far down in the album, I don't think anybody gets that far, so I put it as my sleeper.
Yeah, and this record I felt was like the next one in that to me it feels like the second half was better than the first half. But one last honorable mention, and then we'll get into Chinese Democracy, was "Look at Your Game, Girl." This was the one song that I was like, this has to deliver, because they literally only put it on there for the controversy. It's not a good song. I listened to the Manson version. It sucks.
Yeah, it's not that great.
I listened to their version. It's better. It's take a shitty song and put it in the hands of competent musicians, but it becomes
competent.
It becomes competent. Competent, not great. But that album was followed many, many moons later, many years. Over almost a decade and a half, almost.
2008 was the release, but they worked on it from 97 to 2007.
I've heard writing even started in 95.
That's possible.
It's rumored, but if that's the case, wow.
I think they started recording in 97.
I'd like to, if there are some recordings of early Chinese Democracy, I'd like to know what it sounded like.
Now, that's where you get into this problem, because you might have heard some. But it's buried in the 8,000 guitar tracks, the 4 bass tracks, the probably 3 different drum tracks, and then you have Axl's singing, which probably took up a couple tracks.
Yeah.
This is the most overproduced album that if they had stripped it down a little bit, it probably would have been pretty good. I thought it was okay when I heard it. I bought it when it came out.
Yeah.
It's just way overproduced. Especially for Guns N' Roses.
Okay, one, I cannot disagree with you enough. Or I cannot agree with you enough, I should say.
Yeah.
Number 2, my one gripe with this album, having actually listened to it, is a lot of... When I say it's all over the place, I don't just mean like one song's this style, one song's this style. A lot of songs are like multiple genres and styles in one, where you're like, oh wait, did we start a new song? And you're like, it's the same one?
Yeah.
And sometimes it works.
This album is so long.
But sometimes it doesn't. This is one of their longer records. I think this is over 75 minutes long.
Yeah, it's a doozy.
Did not need to be this long.
Nope.
In fact, if you cut out the first half of the record, you'd have a passable... Well, except for like the first 2 tracks, you'd still have a passable record.
I like the first... I think it's the first 3.
It was Chinese Democracy, Shackler's Revenge...
And Better.
I
like Better.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
But, yeah, it's super overproduced. And for being all over the place, everything kind of sounds the same.
Yeah, in a
really
weird way.
And everything is, like, the same quality for the most part. There's not much difference between the best songs and the worst songs.
But I will say, the second half of the record, as I said with Spaghetti Incident, is the best part because it's the most consistent on part of this record. It has some of the better songs, I think, on the record.
It'll tire you out, though.
Yeah,
by the time you get there, you'll be tired.
Yeah, you better... it's a good idea. If you're going to listen to this one, lay down with a nice blanket and a pillow. You need to just chill or take a nap at some point.
I just tell people to take an intermission, maybe skip a song or 2 in the middle.
Alright, but Joe, what would you say is the best song on Chinese Democracy?
I thought Chinese Democracy it opens with a really cool, epic sounding song. I think my favorite's probably going to be Shackler's Revenge.
I had a feeling you were going to pick that.
Oh, really? What gave you that feeling?
The fact that every time Chinese Democracy comes up in conversation, you always go, Shackler's Revenge was pretty good.
Yeah, it's
not the best song on the record even. He was just like, Shackler's Revenge is pretty good.
It's one of my favorite songs on the record. I'm a big Buckethead fan, and you can hear the Buckethead influence not only in the title, but in the guitar parts. But I just really dug it. Now, here's one thing I gotta say. For the songs I like, it is entirely possible that everybody hates them because they don't sound like Guns N' Roses songs. Like, this whole album doesn't sound like Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, this isn't a Guns N' Roses album. This is an Axl album.
I'm sitting here and I'm listening to it and I remember criticizing songs on, like, Lies and Use Your Illusion for not sounding Guns N' Roses enough. That is both of these records, for the most part. This one entirely so.
At least Spaghetti Incident gets a pass because it's a cover record.
And there are songs that sound like Guns... Like, Ain't It Fun sounds like a Guns N' Roses song. Yeah. Everybody forgets that it's a cover. But...
I did.
Yeah.
No joke. Until when I saw it was on this one, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. They didn't write that.
So... Yeah... I mean, I really dig Shackler's Revenge. What's your favorite song?
My favorite song on there was This I Love. I actually really enjoyed it. I thought the last 2 tracks were really strong, and it's like if the rest of the record was as strong as those last 2 songs, you would have had a much better record with even with its flaws.
You trim the fat and you cut down on the production. This is a good record. I promise.
I think Shackler's Revenge or Chinese Democracy might have been my number 2 pick.
Yeah.
If this song was not on the record, but I just really enjoyed it. You know, I actually enjoyed it. Like I would put it on my own. Probably because it's probably the least produced sounding song on the record. It's the most stripped down you're gonna get, and it's Axl singing, which as you know, I think Axl has a very underrated, like, proper singing voice.
Yeah.
You hear it on Patience, but that's really about it.
I went into that song thinking I was gonna hate it, but it actually turns out really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just there's so much with this record, and you just gotta trim it down. Songs are long.
Yeah, I think the shortest song is like a little under 4.5 minutes.
And I think it's Better. I think Better is the shortest song or something, or close to it. It's on the shorter side, I thought. I could be wrong. It all kind of sounds the same after a while. What's your worst song?
Better. I hate it.
Really?
It's so all over the place. Nothing works. As far as I'm concerned, the vocals don't work with the song. Parts of the song don't work with the other parts of the song. This one just feels like a gelatinous, gluttonous mess of a song. I did not enjoy it. This is another song where I was really like, I was looking at the time every like couple seconds. I was about to hit the skip button, but you know, I'm a trooper. I'm a broadcast journalist, so I pressed on. But I couldn't do it. It was so it just felt like it felt like those ransom letters where people cut out different magazine things. That's what this song was. And not one piece worked, is in my opinion. I know you think it's not that bad, but.
You give it a 5 out of 5?
Sure. 5 out of 5 on the shit list, on the shit scale.
All right.
On the shit sandwich.
I think I'm going to put, because there's a few I had here. I had Sorry, I had Madagascar. These are like...
Sorry was surprisingly good to me. I actually kind of enjoyed Sorry.
I didn't like it. I think Prostitute was my least favorite.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's like in the second, third.
I think Prostitute... What? Prostitute?
Yeah, and then the second.
I think Prostitute's the last song.
Is it the last song?
I believe Prostitute's the last song.
Oh, maybe because it's the last song. I'm
it's
already
stuck with you.
I'm already 60 minutes in. I'm like, this ain't getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't dig it. But you can just as easily put most of the songs.
Yeah, the opening 3 tracks were on my like underrated. Were Chinese Democracy. And Shackler's Revenge. I'm not putting the first 3, but I'm saying it because I know you really like it. It starts off with a nice bang. You think like, oh wow, this isn't going to be so bad, and then you get into
it's a pretty epic intro. So you're like, man, this is going to be big.
It's kind of like when I look at the first 2 tracks and the last 2 tracks, I kind of look at it as like some decent bread with like some like almost expired bologna. It's not the worst thing in the world. But it's definitely not what you're after. So if you're a Guns N' Roses fan, I would say at least give this a try. Hear me out. Because while it doesn't sound like the Guns N' Roses especially like as people get older, they tend to get into other stuff, something from this record could speak to you and be something you could get into.
This is an iTunes record if I ever saw one. This is one where you pick the songs you want.
Yeah. And hope to God there's a preview button.
My underrated song, I've got actually Riyadh and the Bedouins, I think.
I don't know how to say it.
And there's also
Scrapped. Scrapped! I forgot about Scrapped.
They're back to back.
Scrapped is a really good song.
Yeah.
That was probably that was a tie for number 2 with the first 2 tracks.
They're back to back. Scrapped and I think then the Riyadh one. They're both surprisingly really good, and it's a nice pick-me-up in the second half of the record when you're getting into the final stretch.
All right, and speaking of the final stretch, from best to worst, how do you rank Guns N' Roses' discography?
Well, Appetite's number 1. I think Use Your Illusion 1 is number 2. Lies is 3. Use Your Illusion 2 at 4. Then it gets hard. I'm gonna say, because I kind of like Chinese Democracy on a whole. I didn't hate the sound. It's just way overproduced. God, this is really hard. I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Spaghetti Incident and then Chinese Democracy because Hair of the Dog saves it.
All right.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Alright, so for me, best to worst, Appetite for Destruction, followed by GNR Lies.
Okay, yeah, you said that before.
Followed by Use Your Illusion 2.
Okay.
Use Your Illusion 1. Then Chinese Democracy. Then Spaghetti Incident. I will tell you why. Because while Chinese Democracy may have bad moments, one, it's at least their own material, so it's from them.
Okay.
Number 2, I'd rather you remember a bad experience than an average experience.
Yeah.
Like, I'm probably gonna remember more from this album than Spaghetti Incident. Like, seriously, like, give it a week, I will remember as much about Spaghetti Incident as I did before I listened to it.
Yeah, no, and I can't fault you for those final 2.
And honestly...
and the Use Your Illusions, like...
And
it's kind of a similar deal.
And when you know the story of this album, how it's essentially the Duke Nukem Forever of rock and roll, you kind of grow to appreciate it, even the bad stuff. You grow to appreciate it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean it's a competent album.
Yeah. And it has some good stuff in there. There's some decent tracks.
Yeah, there's some good ideas, and then it gets buried.
If we since they put out the what are they calling it, the Locked and Loaded edition of Appetite, which, by the way, Shadow of Your Love is a really good song, and I'm so disappointed that it was not on the original release.
Too bad they didn't put it on Chinese Democracy or...
Yeah. Well, no, I'm glad, because then they would have fucked with it.
It would have been like 8 guitars. Like, everybody's got to get their shit in.
Yeah, but now, since they were able to do that, and I can almost guarantee you they have masters of this stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if down the road, if enough people asked for it, we got a stripped down version of Chinese Democracy, which I'd really like to hear. I'd like to hear a real Guns N' Roses version of this, because there's a good album is in there somewhere.
I don't know if they have like a real like stripped down version. It'd be interesting to hear the demos.
Yeah.
I think that's what they should do. Put out demos.
Hell, you talk about...
You can make a whole box set of demos of this record.
Like, and like, a lot of bands, like I know like the Addicts did it with their first record, Fear did it with their first record, Suicidal Tendencies did it with their first record. A lot of bands like to re-release iconic records. Mm-hmm. This is one I kind of wish the current lineup would re-record, because why re-record something that's good again, to where like you take the good thing and make it bad. Take the bad thing and make it better.
I wonder. I don't know if that'll happen, but it'd be an interesting experiment.
But if
let's try and talk them into it, man.
Before we leave, I just want to say, if they suggested it and said we're doing it, would you be on board?
I'd probably.
Would you be on the night train?
Not on that train. I would be on that train, not the night train. That's the worst song on Appetite.
Well, as long as you're not dancing with Mr. Brownstone, we're all good. But that's going to do it for our look at the discography of Guns N' Roses. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know how you rank not only these 2 records, but how you rank Guns N' Roses discography as a whole. If there's any bands you'd like us to do discographies for, let us know in the comments section. Let us know how you feel about how we're doing, anything Mint Condish. Don't forget also to like the video, subscribe to Mint Condish Productions, hit the bell to stay notified of anything that's up and coming from Mint Condish Productions. And I
think that's it.
We'll see you next time. Yeah. So until then, I'm Scott.
And I'm Joe.
And remember, guys, rock and roll never forgets, and neither do we. We'll see you later.